Hello to all you crazy people who can't get enough of miniature painting and you're watching videos on the weekends. I'm Doc Eon. This is my midweek update how can it be midweek, you ask, if it's on a Saturday? Isn't that the weekend? Well, my definitions are a bit loose. What I mean by midweek is it's in between my Monday updates somewhere. I mean, Tuesday's too early and Sunday's too late, but I feel anything in between that is fair game. So you're looking at bones. I'm only going to talk about bones, I think, this update, at least as far as completed minis go. I've done the devils. You're looking at the ice devil. Now, in the artwork, the ice devils tend to be predominantly white with just some blue-gray shadows, but just flat white is a little difficult to paint on miniatures. So I made him a little bit more blue, tinted him more towards the blue side of the spectrum to make it, you know, pop more three-dimensional. I hope that worked out. Next, we have some proof that I do listen, or, well, I do consider your comments and suggestions. This is the Bone Devil that I was talking about having to take off the wings because he was so unbalanced he couldn't stand up straight. They were too heavy. And someone, sorry, I forgot the name, I forgot who, suggested that maybe some pinning would help. And I did that. I inserted a little bit metal rod into his knee and into the base, and I painted it black so you hopefully can't notice it too well. And he does actually now stand up. Voila. Very nice. Now, the next few these are very shiny because I've left them in a gloss coat. Now, the color of this guy is a bit much against that background. Let's see if we can get something darker behind it and you can see more clearly. He's very, very green and yellow and white. This is the Hellcat. I had an idea of trying to paint it as if it was glowing from within, so the lightest color would be on the inside, the white, and like the scales would be a darker color. That proved very, very difficult to do with a Bones mini because the sculpting is very, or molding perhaps, is very, very shallow. It's difficult to dry brush, and I would have had to go in and paint each scale individually. So in the end, I just settled for something bright in general. I used a lot of iridescent medium here to make it sparkle, and also left in the gloss coat because this is supposed to be a being of mostly just energy. Yeah, I think it's okay. And finally, we have the lemurs. They're not lemurs. And I left them gloss coated simply because they're supposed to be slimy. They're bags of slime, and I just painted them up to be disgusting. Bags of yeah, really, really gross. Now, why is this book in the background, you might wonder. This is the Numenera rulebook, and the reason I have it here is so I can look for some pictures of monsters. Why do I want to do that? Well, for example, on this spread we have something called an Erinth Grask, and what do you know? I have the miniature for that here. All primed and ready to go, and the base has been started. Now, this picture doesn't give me a lot to go on for color schemes. It's a kind of a pale, sort of gray-green the main color with some red here. well, that might give me some hints. On the facing page we have something called an ifsin, which is a kind of a flightless bird, I think. And what do you know? Here it is. Oh, I got a splash of paint there. That was just an accident. And he's a kind of golden brown with some green and some blue in the face. And yeah, this pattern here with the blue and the light purple and the banding, that's too complicated. I can't paint that. I'll do a simplified version of it. Let's keep flipping and see if we can find the next monster that I have a bones mini of. And I think I'll find some name right here, the Raster, who has a rider here. And here's the Raster, the flying little thingy on a flying stand. It's difficult to tell the three eyes here. I wouldn't have actually thought to paint them that distinctly if I hadn't seen this picture. I've prepped the rider separately because it's going to be, as in the picture here, very different colors. I don't want them to bleed into each other. There's holes here. I can glue him on, or her actually, just before priming. No, just before varnishing, I think. And I think the last one, yes, here we have the Ravage Bear, which is this blind sucker. Now this painting gives no guide at all. He's just kind of a pale gray. That's boring. Well, the idea of it being pale, sure, I can live with that, especially since I painted the base pretty dark. But I'm gonna have to come up with some interesting colors on my own for that one. So those were the new Nerra Monsters. They're ready to go. Let's move that aside. And what's next? Well, I'm always one step ahead here. So what's next? This set was known as the Greater Demons, and it came in 2 separate little bags because there are 2 separate models. It's a set of only 2 models because they're so big. And if we pour this one out, you'll find it has a base of its own to stand on. And, you know, it's very clearly... What? Huh, that's funny. Am I supposed... Yeah. I'm gonna have to reshape his legs because they're supposed to be much further apart on this base. Huh. But anyway, the connection points are obvious, as always, with the bones. This is the thing I've praised them for before. You can only fit them in one way. And just doing some dry fitting here. Now, these are D&D demons. They can't use the actual names for them, of course, because they don't have the license. But this, with the pincer claws and the sort of dog head with the horns, this is clearly a Glabrezu demon. And it has some extra arms here. Oops, well, let's move that aside. And let's have a look at the other one. See which D&D demon this is. This one also has a base. He's good. Oh, thankfully, he has much thicker legs, so thankfully they are better adjusted for the way they're supposed to be on the base. Now this is a huge gorilla-like body with... Oh. Thought the head was missing. With huge arms. How do these fit? How is this supposed to fit? Is that... No? No, it is like that. Oh, he's resting it on his knuckles on the ground like a gorilla. With a boar's head. Sorry, I ran into the time limit there. A boar's head and little stubby wings. So, this is obviously a Nalfeshni demon. Is that the wings? That's him. Gloriously stupid looking. But, you know, this is what D&D artwork looks like. Anyway, that is the Bones projects, the Once and Future Bones, the past, present, and future projects. Let's move on. Just wanted to give you a quick update on, or an addendum to the video I did about Milliput yesterday, or the day before, I forget which. I did experiment some more with using Milliput with the basing stamps, and I did manage to get a few useful bases out of it. Like this one, I forgot, I painted this before I remembered that I should film it, so you can't see what the actual surface was before painting. But I can get it to work if I'm really, really careful about the application of water. You need some water to make it release from the basing stamp, but if you use too much, it just becomes mush. So there is a very fine line to walk there with pure Milliputs. But like I said, this one with a simpler texture worked fine. For something with a texture like this, more detailed, it did not seem like a good idea. What is this, you might wonder? Well, this is a test I made after reading a suggestion that you could mix Milliput with green stuff. So this pale green stuff is actually 50% green stuff and 50% the white Milliput. And that took to stamping very well. And so the amount of detail is extremely good. The strength of it, it's kind of a mix. I mean, green stuff would bend like nobody's business, while Milliput would be rock hard. This is somewhere in between. This is like a hard rubber feel to it, which is okay. I mean, I don't need it to be rock hard. This will be glued to, in this case, this is an insert for a base like this. So that will provide the stability needed. Or you could glue it on top of a normal 40mm base. I also, on my own initiative, tried mixing the Milliput with Procreate, and this provided also a good result. Also sort of in between in strength, slightly harder than the green stuff mixture, I think. The mixture, there's no difference in quality really between these two. And the Procreate is harder to mix with the Milliput. It's harder to mix to begin with. It's a tougher material. It's not as easily blended as green stuff. So, and I quite like how this mixture behaved, the Milliput plus green stuff. So I'm sort of tentatively saying that if you're willing to mix different products and experiment a little bit, I think this is the way to go. Combining Milliput and green stuff. And you don't need the white Milliput, I think. I've read about people using just ordinary, the yellow-gray. However, and mixing Procreate with it is a little bit too much work, but I would still say that if you want a standalone product, if you don't want to buy several different putties and mix them, you just want a one-stop solution, I would still suggest the pure Procreate. That's still your best bet. It takes detail the best out of the box, so to speak. And maybe this mixture is even a little bit better. It's hard to say. This one came out better than this one, so it's hard to judge from comparing just one base to another. It can be, you know, accidents of the exact mixture and the how you applied the stamp. So this is not enough of an empirical sample to draw definite conclusions, but you have my tentative suggestions. Now, new arrivals this week were sparse, to say the least. About the only thing that's shown up that I can show you is I got the second part of the shipment for Wave 1 of the Kings of War Kickstarter. Wave 1 was supposed to contain everything except the new units, except the new armies, the Forces of Abyss and the Forces of Nature. However, certain things were missing from mine. And I've received those now. Specifically, there were a bunch of movement trays that I'd ordered as add-ons. These are not all of them, but just to show you how they look. I mean, you've seen movement trays before. You might not be familiar with exactly how the ones from Mantic look. They are, compared to others I've seen, they are very thin, very low profile, and have very narrow sort of edges or lips to them, which is fine. That means they don't take up any extra space. You maintain the size that the unit is supposed to have. And the other thing was they had missed shipping. I had ordered an extra undead necromancer. And they haven't made the blisters for this new necromancer model yet, it seems. So it came in this baggie. It's an interesting model. It's a body with one arm. And let's see, there, that's in focus. So there's a body with one arm holding a book open, and you have a choice of two different left arms, I believe, with one with a sleeve and one, I can't really tell what the difference is. They're both kind of open-handed. So this one is raised. That's upward, and this one is just stretched to the side. And there's also a choice of two different heads. Where's the other one? Of which I think one is supposed to be more human and the other is supposed to be more undead. And there wasn't there also... No. That was it. They forgot to put a base in. But, you know, no big deal. I've got spare bases. And I'm thinking of actually adding this guy into my Spookytober project, because he'd fit right in. I mean, I've got another box of individual units lined up anyway, so he could fit in there, maybe? We'll see. Anyway, that's all I had to show you today. I will see you in just a few days in my normal Monday updates. Until then, I'm Dakian, and I'm signing off.